And welcome to the Fantasy Boardroom. As always, I am your host and fantasy CEO, Tycoon. So let's get to it, baby. It is week 3. We've already had a surprisingly interesting Thursday night game. The final seconds may have affected you in a very positive or negative way. That was significant to some, as Al Michaels said. So but yeah, definitely started out kind of a barn burner. 4 straight touchdown drives between the two teams. Definitely not what I think most of us expected going into what was supposed to be a windy night versus 2 not so good offenses. Of course, the defenses are not very good either. So, we saw. But anyways, we are here. We are in session. It is fantastic. We're ready to have some fun. I am solo again tonight. We have no guest, but we are going to acknowledge the and welcome from Anthony as well. Thank you, Rasta Sir. Yes, you get it. You know it. You know what's up. So tonight we are going to discuss what we're buying, what we're selling. I'm not saying, who you should buy, who you should sell, just performances that we should be buying and selling, and who not to panic on because people are freaking out. They're possibly 0-2. Even some at 1-1 are just freaking out. High picks are not performing to their draft cost. So yeah, people are starting to get on edge already. There was an interesting Reddit thread the other day about who was the worst analyst or who were the worst analysts in fantasy football. And it was fun to see everybody rail on everybody they hate that had even one single incorrect take so far for this season. So yeah, emotions are running high early in the fantasy season, as we all love. And then we're also going to discuss, of course, week 3 props. Why? Because we need to make some money. So let's get into what we're buying here, huh? First and foremost is one Christian Kirk. Yes, he is for real. He was... The contract was roundly criticized, let's put it that way, but he's getting the usage that is commensurate with his salary. 90% snap count, 26.5% target share. Lawrence is looking his way often, and Kirk is making the plays. It's that simple. And Lawrence is playing at a high level right now. He has really started the season off hot. And there is nothing but reason to expect that to continue. I mean, the Chargers do have a tough defense, but J.C. Jackson is out. So we'll see how much the pass rush can get to Lawrence and kind of affect him there. But if he can get the ball out, I like Kirk's chances to continue to excel not only this week, but just moving forward. They're in a weak division. The schedule is not very tough. Christian Kirk, buy it. It's for real all day long. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yes, buy it. I mean, I don't think this really takes much selling at this point. But point of debate for sure during the course of the offseason, there was a start camp of believers and a start camp of those, everybody was hurt. And that's why he dominated the targets at the end of the season and went on that crazy run. Well, it has not stopped despite the addition of other targets and, of course, despite the return to health for some of these targets. We've got Hawk and Swift out there. But yeah, so while I don't think he'll maintain this absurd 33.8% target share that he has right now, that cannot be ignored by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, he is the unquestioned alpha of that group. And guess what? The Detroit offense is good. Yeah, I know. Crazy. But the run game is absolutely elite, and that's keeping defenses honest for St. Brown. And when Jameson Williams gets back, I don't anticipate this being a situation where he kind of takes over. I think, what Wilson may be doing to Elijah Moore here, but it will be something that will continue to open things up for St. Brown because Jameson Williams is also the real deal, let me tell you. And he will command defensive attention, and that will continue to keep things open and honest for Amon-Ra, and the sun god will not be denied. Believe it. For how long? For the whole season, baby. You can believe in St. Brown the entire season. There's no reason to doubt him whatsoever. This is, again, he's not going to do what he did in week 2 every single week. But, he's firmly in wide receiver 1 territory. I don't see how you deny that at this stage. That's just really being ignorant to what you're seeing take place right in front of you. Here's another one, though, that I think people are not quite as sold on at this point. But I'm going to say buy it, believe it, and that's Curtis Samuel. The risk with Samuel really is health. that's what could be the bugaboo here. It's not going to be a drastic downgrade in performance. I truly don't believe that. He has a 25.5% target share, far and away the best on the team. It's no fluke. Wentz loves the guy. He's a dynamic player, so that's perfect for Carson. We'd like to see him take less risks. He likes to get a wild. Now, we know he's got an arm, and he can make those big throws, but, we get good Carson and bad Carson. And the snap count for, excuse me, for Samuel increased from 71% to 91% from week 1 to week 2. Clearly, they're trying to work him in more. They very much believe in him. And he is going to be subject to a bit more week-to-week variance, I think. He does have a low average depth of target. I think it's only like 3.5 yards. He's just getting dink and dunks. But as long as they continue to be in space, he'll be able to continue to be the yak machine that he has been. And again, just needs to stay healthy, stay on the field. No problem. You can fully believe in him. Now, there'll be a couple games where defenses may be wise to that plan, maybe game plan to stop those screens and other short dump-offs passes, that Samuel's going to really be primarily targeted on. But, again, he's performing. There's no reason to expect to stop, and he is going to be a reliable weapon here for Carson Wentz. I'm going to package these next two because why not? Drake London and Garrett Wilson, the kids, the young bucks, the fucking killer rookies. What can I say? They are for real. I talk a little bit about Dynasty on here, and you saw my rankings. They were both in my top 5 in rookie drafts this offseason, and not really anything earth-shattering there. Probably 95% of mock rookie drafts would have put him there, both of them. But London is the unquestioned alpha in Atlanta. By far, he's got 12 targets in week 2. No one else had more than 3. He's got double the overall targets that Kyle Pitts has and triple anybody else on the team. It's Drake London show. The kid is the truth. Dominant. He can... The knock on him supposedly was that he couldn't separate. Well, he's already proven that to be a myth. The guy's big, strong, fast. Well, he's not overly big, actually, but still. He's strong and fast. The guy can play. He's got great hands. He runs great routes. He can do everything you want. He's everything you want in a receiver. And Garrett Wilson is rapidly ascending to that spot there with the Jets as well. He's easily the team leader in targets and all receiving categories, despite having only the 3rd highest snap count behind Elijah Moore and Corey Davis. If he's out there, he's getting used. He commands targets. Demands. London's a clear safety blanket there for Mariota as well. We're going to talk about Pitts a little later, and you'll see his performance improve, but London is still going to be the guy. And Garrett Wilson, why I mentioned that he's going to continue to rapidly ascend to that top spot on the wide receiver depth chart there in New York, is that he's tiers ahead in talent over Moore and Davis. Now, I love Elijah Moore. I think he's also a stud. Going to be great. Zach Wilson's going to have plenty to work with, and he's going to lean on both of these guys in particular. You see Corey Davis be the one to suffer, but this duo of Wilson and Moore is going to be great. But Wilson is a clear step above Mr. Moore. Don't get it twisted. This is again not a fluke what we're seeing in these early weeks. Now, performances that we need to sell, and I said this wasn't going to be an episode talking about selling players, but you might want to sell these players if you can. Most of these are not really it, though. Carson Wentz is the first one. Now, I know we were just praising Samuel, but Wentz, he will fall back to earth. In the last 5 seasons, he only has 1 QB1 performance, finishing at QB12. Currently, he's sitting at quarterback 4. We know that's not going to stand. Expect this to drop off. We've seen good ones before, and we know bad ones is going to rear his ugly head here at some point. He's got talent around him. Gibson, McLaurin, Samuel, that's nothing to sneeze at. Dotson's been great, but he had even better talent, I think, in Indianapolis, and it still completely fell apart on him. It's a lot about not believing in him. It's relatively simple. It's a roller coaster ride with Wentz. He's going to have big weeks. I've got him on Superflex team, so I'm still paying very close attention to him all the time. And it's like a yo-yo. And Superflex, honestly, is still great. Fantastic. But in one QB, see if you can capitalize. He'll ultimately, peter out somewhere around QB 15-ish. Great, but does you no good in one QB. So if you have anybody that's QB needy, maybe they just, maybe they lost Dak a couple weeks ago. Maybe they lost Trey Lance. There's nothing particularly special on the waiver wire. Well, maybe you can improve or see something better on the waiver wire than they can and maximize and get something solid there for Mr. Wentz. Number 2 that I'm selling, and that's Devin Duvernay. Yeah. It's fun. I mean, I love Lamar. I'm really enjoying the Ravens. This is a team that I'm rooting for. But fluky hot start for him. Had 3 touchdowns already. Those 2 touchdown catches in week 1. The return in week 2. Pause to say what up to dem boys. How's it going? Welcome, sir. For how long are you going to be here? Exactly. No, just kidding. Misclick. Low pass volume offense. There's, I want to say, 59 or 69 pass attempts. I think it was 59 pass attempts through the first 2 weeks. And he's only getting 3 targets a game, 4 in week 1, 2 in week 2. It's the likely weekly ceiling of maybe 5 if he's being heavily targeted. It's just not enough usage to sustain anything unless he has an absolutely historic scoring pace. So, yeah, don't worry about Devin Duvernay. There's no reason to go pick him up off waivers unless you're in a really deep league or something like that. It's pointless. Greg Dortch. Now, good play last week. He was touted actually by several going from week 1 to week 2, but he did, and he actually still put up some numbers, but it was a massive usage decline in week 1 from week 2, and it's only 4 games away from Mr. Hopkins' return. So he'll be irrelevant in pretty short order. I mean, it's really that simple. He will be relegated to the 4th target, and that's that. And in an offense like Arizona's, which frankly isn't that good, there was a weird game in week 2. There's no, I want no part of that. Oh man, so what? A little less than 5 quarters. Fantastic. That's all right. You already missed the first quarter anyway, so we'll help you finish the game. And the last one that I'm not going to buy moving forward, that I'm going to sell as far as these performances go moving forward, is that of Corey Davis. Nearly half of his points came on that late deep bomb tutty there from Flacco in week 2. I mean, it's the Wilson show like we were just talking about. And secondarily, it will be Elijah Moore. Davis will have spike weeks for sure, but yeah, good luck guessing when they are. As long as all 3 of those guys are healthy, it'll be Wilson and Moore that eat, not so much Corey Davis. So don't need to worry about him either. Don't need to run and pick him up off waivers if he's available. Just kind of forget about him. Hopefully you're not dealing with him. Now to the most important thing that I want to stress to everybody. Week 2, do not panic. None. Don't. No reason to. Please. It's only been 2 games. I've started a season 0-6 and won a championship. So it just calma. And there's a couple of key players that I think are widely being discussed as, shoot, we are not getting what we paid for. They are freaking out about these guys. And I'm here to tell you, just, Aaron Rodgers style, relax. First one, predictably, is Kyle Pitts. Relax. Kyle Pitts is going to be fine. He's getting 5 targets a game right now. And that is being recognized as ridiculously low usage already. Everyone's focusing on Arthur Smith's fantasy comment. We're trying to win games, not fantasy football here. But he also mentioned in a follow-up that Pitts was the primary read repeatedly on plays, but he didn't get the target. I mean, they are calling his number. It will come. I mean, the talent is too great to ignore, and really, he only has London as actual target competition. And London's presence, honestly, should help. So it will come. Marcus Mariota made similar comments as Smith, too, saying, just relax. It's, we're looking to get involved. It just hasn't happened that way in the first couple of weeks, but he's far too good to ignore. The breakout's coming very, very soon. We'll be discussing him again later. And another one, and this should come as no surprise to those of you that know me, Travis Etienne. Calm down. Now, most of you probably didn't have to pay a particularly high price. You were able to get him in the 5th or 4th round. In some cases, as we got later on, he crept up into the late 3rd and early 4th. And if you're there, all right, fine. I get it. I understand. But while the fantasy points haven't really been what we'd hoped for in the first 2 weeks, again, it's important to remember that these are his first 2 NFL games. But it's also still just the first 2 games of the season. Things happen, they're working him in. James Robinson still exists. I still think ETN's better, but that's a whole different discussion. We don't need to talk about that. That's not part of this. Travis Etienne saw his rushing attempts go from 4 to 9 from week 1 to week 2. They more than doubled. He's averaging 7 yards per touch. So he's showing that burst, that explosiveness that we were hoping to see, that we want to see. And he only has 12 less overall yards than Robinson. The only difference is the touchdowns. Robinson has 3, ETN 0. And he was this close to having 2 of them in week 1. And we'd be, singing a whole different tune here. The usage is there. It's increasing. The trust is increasing. He's on the field in most of these receiving situations, which are higher value situations. That's what we want to see. So the outlying peripheral numbers are very encouraging for how things are going to look for him moving forward. If Robinson hadn't scored the touchdowns, it wouldn't look quite so impressive either, particularly the 130-yarder. I mean, you can't take it away, and I'm actually one who hates doing this. You don't take away the big plays. They matter a lot. But those huge plays aren't really Robinson's thing typically either. So, I mean, still, that one play does make up a significant portion of the season already. 30 yards and a touchdown out of 100 yards or 130 yards and 3 touchdowns. So matters quite a bit. And lastly, most players, calm down. I mentioned the 2 above because, again, they required much higher draft capital. They were hyped by many, many people. So, yeah, they're just popular names and wanted to address them specifically. But really, there are a lot of other players struggling, a lot of running backs. But for 90% of these guys, it's way too early to worry. There's a lot to be determined in this season. Just have some conviction in your takes. Reset, let things play out a little bit. Trust your gut. And have fun. But you drafted these guys for a reason. And if you really thought these guys suck, 2 weeks after starting your season with them, I don't know that you ever really believed in them. In which case, again, have some conviction here. Believe. A lot of things have to play out. Now, some of these running backs, I'm a little concerned about, like Derrick Henry. But other than that, there's a small number. We already went over a handful of these players earlier selling their performance. But for the most part, most of these guys, you can relax. Christian McCaffrey, if you're a CMC owner, relax. He may not pay off if you took him at 101, 102, but he's still going to have much, much better games ahead. So just chill. I mean, we saw things from Aaron Jones owners after week 1 freaking out. Week 2, week winner. So it's all good. That's all I'm going to say. Just now to the fun part. The extra fun part, because we can control this on a weekly basis, much more so than the rosters we drafted God knows when. And that is the week 3 picks. Prop picks, baby. We went 4-1 on our boardroom prop picks last week. The only miss was Kyle Pitts. 2 catches, 19 yards. He did not exceed those 46.5 yards we needed, but everybody else hit. Beautiful day. Fantastic week 2 of NFL betting, and we're looking to make it 3 weeks in a row here. And we are going to start with one that I think is particularly easy, and that is Devontae Adams over 79.5 receiving yards. When I was finalizing the show sheet last night, Renfrow was likely to be out this week, and we now know he is. So because of that, since I didn't have a chance before the show, I'm going to go just check these. This number came from Sleeper last night. I want to see where his current number lies, because I'm sure that's been bumped up, but I'm sure it's a number that I'm still going to be willing to take. but I don't want to make a blind, uninformed, dumb recommendation. $82.5. Absolutely still take that number. So week 2 against the Cardinals was, again, just a really, really weird game. And Tennessee has been worked by receivers. I mean, just look at Diggs on Monday night. Adams is, that level of talent. Do you really think they're going to be able to hold them under 80 yards? Heck, even 83 yards? Especially with Renfro out and increased concentration of targets there? No. Even Shepard put up 71 yards on these guys. So Tennessee's defense is honestly not good. This is going to be kind of a chip on the shoulder game, I think, for Carr and Adams to bounce back after that weird week 2 where they weren't able to do a whole lot. Yeah. Lock it in. Devontae Adams over 79.5 up to 82.5 receiving yards. Next one. Miles Sanders, baby. Over 61.5 rushing yards. Let's continue to real-time check to see if this has shifted at all. 63.5 now on Sleeper, a number I would still take. I would go over 63.5 rushing yards. 80 and 96 yards to start the season. Washington is giving up 119 rush yards per game to running backs, almost 7 yards a carry. Sanders is averaging 15 carries a game, 13 and 17. So just go with the averages, 15 carries a game, 7 yards a carry, 105 yards. Okay, maybe 7 yards a carry is a little generous. Let's just knock it down to Sanders' personal average yards per carry, and that would be 5.88. So 15 carries by 5.88 yards a carry is 88 yards. In the low 60s is just too low. I'd probably take this 66, 67.5. Yeah, this is a real nice line. Washington is not going to be able to stop him or the Eagles' rush game, period. And we're going back to the well. We are going back to Kyle Pitts. Like I said, don't panic. So we're going to take us over on his receiving yards again. 45.5 receiving yards. Yes, 45.5 receiving yards. Unless that's been bumped to 51.5. So people agree. By the way, these lines are up usually Wednesday night. I post them to our Discord, so please go to my Twitter profile. You can find the link to the Discord and see these lines when they're still where they were. But 45.5 was a smash. 51.5 is questionable. I'd probably take it up to 49.5. So if you can find it anywhere, still under 50, take it. I would not play the under on this number. But yeah, if you can get it under 50, absolutely smash that over. And refer to the previous discussion, disappointing results so far, but the Seahawks defense is so bad, it is booty cheeks. And squeaky wheel narrative here. So much is being made about it. I think he'll be looked to a little more often from Mariota. And he had 7 targets in week 1, and I think he'll exceed that here, again, against a very bad defense as being the squeaky wheel. Both much better efficiency versus this just defunct unit there in Seattle. So fire up Pitts with full confidence. And we will stay in this matchup partially on the same premise, which is this just embarrassment of a defense that the Seahawks have. They're giving up nearly 110 rushing yards per game, and attempts drastically reduced for Cordero from week 1 to week 2, and 22 down to 10. But even then, last week with 10 carries against a very difficult Rams front, very difficult, he still put up 41 yards, which would have only missed this line of 41.5 yards by half a yard. And we'll see if that line even still holds. Now he's bumped up to 44.5. I mean, still take that. 45 yards. I think he can do that. Even if he still only gets a similar number of carries, even if he only gets 10, 11 carries here against Seattle, he'll be fine. And definitely expect a higher workload anyways. They got behind there against the Rams, had to increase passing. They were working in Tyler Algier a little more, so he'll still be right in that range. It's definitely not going to be any lower than that, and he really should perform a lot better against the Seattle team than he did against the Rams, which was even respectable. I mean, what can you say? And finally, kind of in correlation with performances we were telling you to sell, Carson Wentz. Under 257.5 passing yards. The Eagles have been very, very tough against the pass this season, led by none other than big play Darius Slay. They're giving up only 218 passing yards per game against more potent passing offenses than Washington has. I mean, obviously the Vikings passing offense, but honestly, the attack there in Detroit, impressive as well. I mean, I would say certainly on par here with Washington. But the biggest risk here is Samuel or Gibson. They could break off a long screen pass or two. Something like that could happen, which can crush the prop if he's able to, do that after a kickoff, after a touchback, whatever. It goes for 75, 80 yards. Oof, that would hurt. And that's possible. But as far as just the downfield passing attack, that's really not going to be there for him against Philadelphia. They're going to have to lean a lot on that short passing game and the ground game. The secondary will do their part here. And regression is due for Wentz as well. I mean, he's a hot start in the first 2 games in Indy before a 7-point stinker there in week 3. So here, I think the honeymoon will start to fade a little bit there in Washington. So the big 5 this week here from the Boardroom. Boardroom official picks Devontae Adams over 79.5 receiving yards, okay, up to 82.5. Miles Sanders over 61.5 rushing yards, okay, up to 63.5. Kyle Pitts over 45.5 receiving yards, up to 49.5, if you can still find that available anywhere. Cordero Patterson over 41.5 rushing yards, up to 45.5 rushing yards, if you can find that anywhere, which you can. 44.5, I know, is still available there on Sleeper. And then Carson Wentz under 257.5 passing yards. And that's when I forgot to double check while we're still here. That has moved way down, 239.5 passing yards. So I would still take the under there. I don't think he hits 240, so I'll just say that's the maximum. My low end, 239.5. Take the under. And again, you see these crazy line movements. All of them have moved, not in my favor. I've moved away from where I was, indicating that the line is moving in our direction. So 79 got bumped up, 61.5 for Miles Sanders got bumped up. So, we're a little ahead of the game here. So please make sure that you are joined to the Fantasy Rogues Rogue Bets Discord, so that way you can get these picks, see these numbers when they are still at their best points here, like these. You cannot get these prices that I just laid out, or these numbers, these lines that I mentioned anymore. But you can still get close, and they are still playable. Just know, pay attention, be on the Discord, and you can take advantage. Really important. Really, really important. And that's just a reminder to lead me into this, which is join the Discord. We have platform links to Prize Picks, Sleeper, Underdog. You can use our code ROGUE at either Prize Picks or Underdog for a deposit match of up to $100. And on Sleeper, you can do the same thing using my code refer-ff_Tycoon, and that will get you a $20 deposit match. But right now, if you use the code KICKOFF22, you can also get a deposit match up to $100 as well. But you have to use my referral code first before the kickoff one, because if you use the kickoff one first, you cannot use mine and get the extra 20. But you can use the kickoff one after mine to get the extra 100. So you can get 120 deposit match there at Sleeper. Top prop missed last night. I had Mitch under 12.5 rushing yards and Kareem Hunt over 16.5 receiving yards. That drop pass there at the 5-yard line would give him like 4 extra yards. That was a really, really painful miss. So top prop did miss by 1. That was our Thursday night pick as well. And there will likely be more picks to come here for week 3. So there actually already are another handful up on the Discord that I did not mention, that I don't have the breakdowns for like I did for these 5, but make sure that you go in, check those out, and take advantage of these lines. Let's make some money. Thank you all for joining me in the boardroom here yet again. It's been a fun start to the season. I hope that y'all that are looking at slow starts, especially those 0-2s, break that seal right now this week. Get into the win column, start your rebound, keep the faith, and make sure you get all these props in that I was just talking about, and let's make some money. Let's win together. And with that, this session of the Fantasy Boardroom is